Welcome in to, dare I say, a special edition of Sport Ball. I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, are my good friends Kyle and Seth. And it is finals time, baby. We're here. Kyle's OKC Thunder versus the Midwest Indiana Pacers. Just like we all predicted. How we doing, boys? We excited? We pumped?
I am excited. I feel like this time of year it's almost mournful. You're excited for
Hmm.
the finals, but you mourn the end of the playoffs. Feels like it's already over, where it was like we got multiple games every day, and then it was okay, we've got one game every day, and now it's like feels like it's been a week since the
It has
last
been.
the Pacers Knicks game six. And then it's like, okay, Thursday there's a game, and then you wait a couple of days, there's another game. It's like, basketball's practically over,
It's
except of
bittersweet.
course for the W.
Facts. MVP season.
That's right.
My favorite. Is she all of our favorite players?
Probably.
But how many of us have her jersey?
I'm guessing you have one.
I do. Got it for my birthday last year.
She's your favorite player's favorite player.
I think that's probably true.
Just knows
Well,
ball.
Caitlin, yeah, that's probably true. Caitlin Clark is the general public's favorite player, but
Yeah.
I think Fee is the favorite for MVP now that that Caitlin's out.
I mean, she should have been the favorite to start with anyways. She's the best
Yeah,
all-around player in the NBA, or the NBA, the WNBA. She might honestly be
but
better than Asia.
I they're gonna say she honestly might be better than most of the NBA.
That could be true too.
I mean, you're telling me Fee isn't better than Landry Shamet? Come on.
That's a step too
I'm
far.
But yeah, it's an exciting time. Like you said it's bittersweet, but this is what we watch all year for, right?
Yep.
The finals are our favorite time of the year. It's one of those things where I always say some other sporting event is my favorite, but this is really my favorite.
No one was even going to ask how I'm doing. What the hell is that about?
Oh,
We
sorry.
just
How are you
listened to
doing?
Seth, and that was about it.
How you doing?
I feel like I have not stopped sweating since I got home, but dishwasher broke last week.
Oh,
Got delivered on yesterday, maybe. But I don't know how to install a dishwasher. Megan's parents are out of town, so I have a massive box sitting in our living room. Toilet
yeah.
handle broke yesterday. Just had to replace a toilet handle and a plunger thing that goes inside.
like the thing you press to flush it.
hmm
Yeah.
It
Those are
was so
tough.
old that it just got corroded in the water and the it snapped off inside. Dog dug a 3 foot by 2 foot hole in our backyard to try to get bunnies.
Oh my God.
It's been a week, man.
3 foot by 2 foot?
Dude, it's massive.
How
Is she
deep?
trying to bury a body?
It's probably about 8 inches deep.
Nice. She find
He
anything?
needs.
Yeah, dude, there's baby bunnies scattered throughout my yard now that she was playing with.
What do you mean, dead?
Some of them were.
Hey, put the kids to bed. They can't hear this.
And then Megan tossed a bucket on top of one, and I was gonna go out there. I don't know what I was gonna do. I don't want to touch him. But I saw out the back window that the other bunny that was somehow still in that hole that the dog dug, the mother came back and was just coddling it. And I was like, do I just let the other one out now of the bucket? It's like 6 feet from them. She was like, leave it. So I left it. I don't know what
Well,
happens
journey.
overnight. I'm not gonna check.
I'd really like an update on this bunny situation, especially the one in the bucket.
This is the third batch of baby bunnies that I've had in my backyard this year.
We said
My
so many
goodness.
bees in that sentence.
Third batch of baby bunnies.
I don't know how many
Oh.
dead baby bunnies I've disposed of in the last 2 months.
It's
This
gotta
is
But
take a
deeply.
gotta take an impact on your mental health for
This
sure.
guy, yeah,
I
his
don't
emotions are in
understand it.
turmoil.
A fenced yard
Hmm.
must smell like dog. Got a
Yeah.
dog.
Right.
Neighbor, dog.
Also has a dog.
they also sometimes have bunnies. They also have an accessible under porch area where they do go.
Yeah.
They dig holes in my yard. The neighbor next door. No fence, no dogs, no animals, also no bunnies.
I think the bunnies like the thrill of the chase.
Absolutely not. There's no way.
They like to raise their families near an apex predator.
I mean, we get bunnies in our yard. I don't I don't think they raise their babies here though. They just come and visit and then eat our plants and go back wherever their home is. We also have snakes.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
I
messed
Although
hate
up.
snakes.
Doesn't
Jasmine
leave the
claims to
house.
see them a lot more often than I do, so I haven't seen one like since last spring, probably.
Snakes should be
Legit would not
eradicated.
leave the house.
There's no use for them on this earth. They need to be eradicated immediately.
Good luck with that.
I feel the same about bunnies.
Whoa. I
At least snakes eat like insects and stuff.
don't care what they do. They don't have any legs.
That's true. They do not have legs.
And
Can't
that
argue with
offends
that.
me. Don't, isn't St. Patrick's Day like the whole holiday is because Patrick, or Saint Patrick, as I assume he was called, got rid of all the snakes in Ireland. We live a holiday for it, as we should.
Mm. We need a St. Patrick for America.
I should know. I'm gonna say that's wrong, but I also should also probably know this because I'm pretty sure Catholic. I know Catholics are the ones that have saints. So I mean,
Why don't you go ahead and look that one up?
I'll uh, I'll look. I don't think that that's right
I'm gonna guess that at least 50% of that story is correct.
about a man named a saint named Saint Patrick.
He was more than a man.
If you take out all the part about snakes, the rest was correct.
Yeah, there was a holiday named after Saint Patrick.
Yeah.
Maybe I can
Um,
take care of it in America. They call
it's
me Saint Sam.
celebrated to honor the patron saint of Ireland and the arrival of Christianity into Ireland. Has nothing
Keep
to do with snakes.
keep scrolling. It's not gonna be the first sentence.
It's they don't advertise it, but we all know the truth.
All right,
There's
maybe
not one single reference to any type of slithering animal.
all right, you can cut all that from the pod, right?
I will not. You act like I actually take time to do that.
It's all right. Annie's gonna love this part.
That's true. She did request more banter.
We can just tell her to tune out once we start talking about sports.
I think she already does that anyway. Speaking of sports, it's the finals, boys.
It is.
But before we preview the finals, let's have a little eulogy, a little celebration of life for the Knicks and the Timberwolves. Although the Knicks found a weird way to celebrate their playoff run by firing their coach, Tom Thibodeau.
That's what you do after the best year in the franchise has had in 25 years, right?
It's funny because I kind of understand it and like don't really blame him for doing it, even though he was the most successful coach since the 90s and led them the farthest they've been in those 30 years. Um, but I think there are a few critiques you could have, Seth, especially offensively, the lack of creativity, the lack of use of Mikal Bridges and his role was weird. The overplaying of the starters in the regular season and not giving players like DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet much of a chance in the regular season, then throwing them out when your back is against the wall against the Pacers and giving them real minutes in the playoffs. So I can see why they might think, okay, we have a roster that's nearly there to get us over the hump to a true finals contender. We need to upgrade our coach. But it is a risky move, leaving behind a coach as good and as good of a floor raiser as Thibodeau is.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard on several other pods comparisons to other coaching changes, right? They're hoping for a Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr, Kyle would disagree, uh, kind of upgrade, or a, Larry Brown taking over the Pistons upgrade. So will that happen, or will it be more like, the Sacramento Kings firing their coaches and then just spiraling down into mediocrity, or the Suns
Mm.
firing Frank Vogel a year after he brought them to the conference finals, and then just getting worse and worse and firing all their coaches for after 1 year since then. So I certainly agree with what you're saying about it being a risky move. I also agree, like, there are reasons to make it. I think it's interesting what the internal politics must have been like. You,
They're
it seemed
supposedly
like Brunson, Josh Hart, the kind of the core of the team were big Tibbs supporters.
Hmm.
And of course, Brunson's dad was an assistant coach. I'm assuming he'll be sticking around. Did they want Tibbs
I don't know
fired?
if that's true.
Did they not care? Were they not consulted? Were they indifferent? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think there's room for improvement, but it's also, I think most everybody would say that Tibbs is at least an above average coach in the NBA. And so it, depending on who they hire, like,
Yeah.
it could also get worse.
You got to nail this next hire, right, Kyle? And we'll see. Like you said, if you said, Kyle, we're not even sure if Rick Brunson is staying or what's happening with that situation. I think everything is
Something
on the
came out today
table.
that there's been players that have been somewhat vocal about their mm, issues, I guess, with Rick Brunson on the bench. No one, the reports won't say, and they'll say the players won't say what the issues are that they have with him. But so
Right.
it's like the report. What was that report that came out earlier? Oh, the Denver one.
Towns.
I was gonna say the Denver one where it was
Oh,
like Malone got fired because so these players were, had issues with how he was treating the veterans. And it's like, well, who are the players?
See Najee.
I mean, speak up. Like if you're gonna say something, say it. I mean, whatever.
Right. The
But
classic anonymous sources, right?
yeah, I mean, I think if you're a team, honestly, like Sacramento even, but any team that's like wants to finally be a playoff team, I think Tibbs would be a fantastic hire. He's he's good at what he does. He's a great regular season coach, right?
Yep.
But it comes at the expense too of like what we kind of saw in the playoffs to an extent. He was a little better this year, especially when it came to that Boston series in terms of like adaptability and um making changes to an extent, which weirdly he went away from in that Indiana series, which I'm sure we'll get into in a bit. But um depending on who they hire, obviously. I, I think the ceiling with Tibbs though is or was capped, but the floor was also much higher than probably whoever they're going to bring in. So it's like I think you increase the probability of a downside, but I also think you increase the probability of seeing a greater peak at the same time.
Yeah.
As long as you get a coach that's like, you know, willing to, you know, play around and optimize instead of kind of just having five guys and those are your guys and that's about it. That's all you're gonna ride with. Kind of like what you said, right? With Shamit and DeLon Wright. Um, like if even Tyler Kolek, who in extremely limited minutes in the regular season, I thought he flashed quite a bit. And it's like you need those players in the regular season. I understand that you want to be a top three, two, whatever seed, but at the same time, you're in the East, dude. We don't need to push it like that. So
Yeah.
get those guys run so that way when you face some type of adversity, you're down by 15 middle of the third quarter of a playoff game. You have confidence in going to them, and it's not like a begrudging thing. And the rest of the team's like, oh, Tibbs must be feeling a certain way about me now because I'm sitting while DeLon Wright's playing, but
Right.
it made sense. DeLon Wright was big in some moments, much better than Campaign. Jesus Christ.
Now, campaign definitely worse than fee.
for sure.
Cam Payne's worse than the worst player in the WNBA.
Yeah, I totally agree, Kyle. And like you said, it's kind of like this is kind of a high risk, high reward move. And they really got to nail this next hire. And I'm curious if they go to the route of maybe an open-minded offensive genius, or, someone who can build an offensive system, or if they go more the route of trying to prop up their defense despite having Cat and Brunson at the two pillars. Um, there are a couple candidates I've heard a lot about. Like I said, Michael Malone. Um, Jay Wright was kind of mentioned if he
Yeah, I
would
was gonna
come
say
out of
bring the whole
retirement.
gang back together. Get the
That
Pope in
would
the
be
building too.
Pope Leo as an assistant coach to Jay Wright. I mean, they're definitely winning the
They gotta
finals at
like
that
Pope
point.
on the bench over Rick.
Um, Someone was saying Jeff Van Gundy returning to the Knicks.
Mm.
I would kind of like that as long as he gets a good offensive assistant. He
Yeah,
could probably, if anyone's going to build a decent defense
I
around
was gonna
Cat and
say, yeah.
Brunson, he might be the guy. So there's a couple good candidates out there, but I think it really depends on what this next hire looks like. Um, I think it's a reasonable starting point to say we've gotten as far as we can with this team with Thibodeau, even though he did raise our floor so much. I really don't mind the move, and I think there's a chance it works out for them.
I
Especially
think
the East is so gettable next year; they could make the finals next year.
I think another thing
So
it signifies is they are going Cat long term. Like I know there's been a lot
Yeah,
of talk of like, hey, Cat's the one to move. Maybe we rearrange that way. But I think if you're getting rid of Thibodeau, it's to make sure that you have someone that optimizes around Cat's abilities or lack thereof on the defensive end, to some extent.
I mean, I think
it
you
is,
only move Cat if it's in a Giannis trade, right?
Yeah, probably.
yeah, it is kind of funny that Cat has now gotten Tibbs fired twice, but not that it's probably more
Right.
coincidence than
Not that it's
actual,
his fault entirely, but
yeah,
he was there both
causation.
times. Yeah.
Um, I mean,
He also saved Tibbs a couple extra days on the job though too. So
yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
so do you feel like obviously changing the coach is a lot easier than changing the players?
Yeah.
So do you feel like this is more of a scapegoat of, okay, Knicks didn't get over the hump, we got to change something, let's put it on the coach, or more legitimate, like this team is good enough to win the finals if they just made a few more adjustments?
I do
yeah,
wonder.
I think it's the latter personally.
I kind of agree too. I do have doubts sometimes if Karl Anthony Towns led defense can make the finals. But as long as Mitchell Robinson is healthy, to me that seems like the perfect pairing. And I think they lean more into that double big pairing if he's healthy. I mean, he was huge in the playoffs. I kind of scoffed coming into the playoffs when people would say, with the healthy Mitchell, that makes a huge difference. But they were right. I mean, it was kind of like Rudy Gobert if he had hands on offense.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's kind of funny that the best archetype player next to Cat is a player like that, Gobert, Mitch. But I mean, it makes sense at the same time
Yeah,
because they're not like high usage players whatsoever. It's tough. I know you say like a Karl Anthony Towns led defense. Obviously, it's not led by him, but when you got both him and Brunson on the court, those are two pretty
right.
attackable players. And it's not even really that like I don't think Cat's as attackable as people make it seem. I know everybody's like, oh, he makes the dumbest fouls. I swear still that he has literally the worst whistle in the NBA.
The refs don't
The
trust him at
amount
all.
of
Like we've seen this before.
the amount of stuff he gets called for that any other A S tier player, whatever you want to say, wouldn't get called for is pretty nuts.
Well, the thing is, he's so clumsy. Like you just assume he's slapping people around with the way he bumbles out there. Um, but yeah, you're right, Kyle. And it's like, but it roster wise, if you have Cat and Brunson, the best defensive players you can have around them almost are Bridges, Anunoby, Hart, and Robinson. It's like I'm not sure what
Of the
else
current
roster wise you
roster.
could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
And
then
that's why it's concerning is it's like, okay, you surrounded them with elite defenders and the defense was still not very good.
Right.
So how do you get better on defense?
I mean, there's better defense. Like I think there's a better defensive player that you could toss Josh Hart's role.
Yeah,
I mean, at the same time, I know we're focusing on the defense, but I think we got to look at the other end too. Like Josh Hart turned into basically a zero on offense in
has
the final
Kyle
round.
turned on Josh Hart, his boy?
No, I'm not turning on him. I'm just saying he didn't shoot nearly as well from three. I think he was 2 for 11 in uh the conference finals. I think he shot like almost 40% in the round before against Boston. There's something going on with Mikal Bridges in the fact that he doesn't know how and also refuses to take a layup. And if he gets to the basket, it's a fadeaway,
Why can he
whatever that
only
is.
make mid-range jumpers now? What happened
It's
to
not even
everything
like a
else?
mid-range. He literally drives to the basket. Anytime he goes up for like a high scoop layup, I'm like, that's it. That's not a make. It's
I
a
know. What's
miss.
up with that?
And then it's just fast break points on the other end. So it's like, go up strong and get fouled, dude. You're 6'6" or whatever.
I wonder too. They said that they were interviewing with a lot of the players as exit interviews and asking them if they wanted to keep Tibbs as the coach and really trying to get feedback on them. I'm guaranteeing you Bridges did not give a sterling
Well,
review
no, he
of
called out
Tibbs.
Tibbs earlier. I mean, in the regular season. So
He's playing him 48 minutes a game and not including him in the offense at all.
I don't know. Is it really his choice? That's what I'd like to know.
I don't know, right?
I
I
want
don't
to
know.
hear from Tibbs, right? Was it like, is your offensive game plan really just Brunson? And if that's not working, let's just toss it to Cat to ISO? Or is that just a flaw of Tibbs himself as a coach to not like direct those
Right.
players to, do different things? I mean, there's no
Hard to know.
motion on that offense at all. There's no pick and rolls between Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, the two best offensive players they have. So that's what I'm saying. It's like the floor is high for a Tibbs team again because you know what you're gonna get. He runs the same group every night. It doesn't matter the stakes, but at the same time, that's all he relies on. And if that's not working, so the upside is capped, and that's why I think this is going to be a good move. I hope they get a good hire.
Yeah.
We spent a lot
Yeah.
of time
It
on
definitely
this.
doesn't seem like with this team, the only offense should be Brunson isoing, doing three spin moves from 10 feet away, or Cat rumbling, bumbling, driving left, trying to get contact. I mean, let's have a little more creativity. So they've made their big move at coach.
They haven't. I mean, they fired one, but they haven't
Right,
made a
right.
move yet.
That's definitely the big change they're gonna make, I guess I should say. I don't know if there's any other like obviously if you can get in for Giannis, you'd like to. I would think that included Cat or Bridges or both and a lot of picks. I just don't know if they even have enough to compete with other teams to get Giannis.
Yeah,
There's
the only
certainly
trades I've seen were like you trade Cat to the Bucks and trade OG or Mikhail to a third team for a bunch of picks and route the
right.
picks to Milwaukee because they don't have many picks to be able to trade. So it seems like, single digit percent likelihood that that would happen.
Maybe Kevin Durant.
I've
Maybe
seen I've
the,
seen that tossed out there. Yeah,
do the Suns want Bridges back? Hey, we made a mistake. We'll take him back for Kevin Durant. I mean, I don't
they
even
would
know what
ask
that
for
would look
more.
like.
They'd ask for more.
Yeah. I mean, if you can turn one of your wings or your wings and a couple picks into Kevin Durant, I would go for it. The thing is, if you're trading Cat for Kevin Durant, then you're relying on Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy all year, which would be a dicey proposition. So if I were them, I would probably just stay pat and hope a coach can bring me over the edge and know that the East is wide open next year.
I
I
think
think
that's
they
most
make
likely to happen.
I think that's most likely for the most part too. They'll make moves on the fringes, right? I think they can cut Precious and get a mid-level exception that they can then go for. I think whoever we see coaching next year, I would bet that we get more than 10 minutes on average a night from Tyler Kolek at a minimum.
Please.
Like I think the roster, I don't think it's in like that bad of a spot. I'm a I'm a what am I gonna say? DeLon Wright fan before anyone that was a Knicks fan knew who DeLon Wright was. So
Delon Wright bounces around, and I always like him when he's in there.
He's a good he's a good like floor general kind of guy.
And I
Great to
would
come
love
off the
more
bench.
minutes for Tyler Kolek, who is absolutely let's just wasting away on my taxi in Dynasty. Let's put him in the starting lineup. All right, so that's goodbye to the Knicks. Seth, your Timberwolves of Minnesota also went down in the last
RIP.
round. You could say not a fair fight for the kids. They gave it their all. Went up against a juggernaut. They're not really close to the OKC level at this stage. Going to be an interesting offseason. Randall, Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker are all extension eligible or free agents. Doubt they keep all three given their tax situation. I'm guessing they probably re-sign Randall and Reed and lose Nah. Maybe try to move Randall during the season. There's a lot of options here. I think the entire state of Minnesota might riot and go up in flames if Naz Reid leaves in free agency. What do you want them to do, Seth, in the offseason as far as roster rejiggering, and what do you think they will do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how all the money works out, and I think Randall had good enough of a season and they made deep enough of a playoff run where he's, somebody would offer him a big contract if the Timberwolves don't extend him. And he might not want to do an extension and just bet on himself. Because wouldn't he be a free agent after next year then if they don't extend him, if I'm not
Yeah, so his
mistaken?
player options for about 30 million, I think.
Yeah.
So he could do that if he'd like to.
So, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that that could go. If I'm a Timberwolves fan, I'm not hell bent on keeping Randall, but it would be nice to get something for him if we're moving him. Um, Nah played really well throughout the playoffs, but obviously Naz Reid is Naz Reid. And I think ultimately what they need is just for Ant to continue to develop and hope that somebody manages to knock off OKC at some point over the next 5 years.
Yeah, what do you
So
think, Kyle? Where are you at with Ant? Because for me, I think he's right on schedule. He's still a very young player.
Is he
Still,
22, 23?
yeah, he's
23,
like
yeah.
3, 4 years younger than SGA. To expect him to be handling his playoff games at the same level as SGA at this stage of his career, I think is unrealistic. And I think to me, Kyle, he's already made a lot of playmaking. Um, he's already made a huge leap in playmaking, even from last year's playoffs. And I know people were arguing he wasn't aggressive enough, but I thought overall he mostly made the right play and was seeing a lot of double teams. I think, like I said, he's right on schedule to keep moving forward in his superstar arc.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the takeaway from the playoffs should be, oh my God, what is Minnesota going to do? Can Ant lead a championship team? I don't think it's really a question whether he can or he can't. It's a matter of when, in my opinion. Like you said, we've seen an outrageous amount of growth year over year. And like just between last season and this season, he came back and was one of the best three-point shooters in the league on all kinds of, pull-ups, step backs, um, anything in that, of that sort. He developed a ton on the playmaking end as well. That was another thing that we kind of saw as an issue last year in the Western Conference Finals. And I think next thing is like, basketball for the most part, analytically, right, is at the basket or threes. But if he develops a mid-range to really become like a three-level scorer, that makes him so much more harder to guard when he's already getting doubled. But like, if you're getting doubled and then you toss a pass off and then get the ball back, you know, uh, 15 feet from the basket, but you're a threat to just score from there. You're going to force your guy to come up, and then you have an open. you have a route to the basket. So like I think that's the next development of him. I'd be surprised if we come back at the start of next season and we don't see that addition to his game. And it just again is that next step to kind of level up to be the potential North American face, I guess, or USA face of basketball.
I can't wait till he develops that mid-range post-up turnaround jumper game. I mean,
That's
it's
it.
coming. It's coming for sure. Seth, much like the Knicks with Cat, I often think to myself, can a team, for opposite reasons, can a team with Rudy Gobert as their offensive center make the finals? And I often question if
I
a
don't think
man
he's
with
our offensive center though.
if a man with scissors can hands with hand for hands can really make the finals.
I don't
I'm
know what
not
that
sure.
means.
Uh, I think they can. I think you saw in the second round series against the Warriors when they were going so small, and Gobert was actually able to punish them on the boards. Right,
Hmm.
that's how he's able to contribute on on offense. Because as you said, it's not like he's rolling on pick and roll and catching the ball in traffic, right? He can catch a lob sometimes, but um but I think overall in the playoffs we saw improvement from Gobert on offense. It's just
Agreed.
not against OKC, but I mean nobody looks good against OKC. So,
Yeah, he did average like 5 and 3 against OKC.
I mean, they're a
But
legit all-time team, so
yeah.
I don't think we should be basing that on just kind of one series. Like you said, I think the two series before were showed improvements. Again, similar to Ant, and kind of how they used the Western Conference Finals last year as a way to look at things to improve. Um, I was, as a normal Gobert hater who may be shifting, impressed by his defense, especially in isolation against even Luca in the first round. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just easy anymore. He wasn't just fouling either. If he was actually contesting, he was able to, be a viable defender and not someone necessarily that could be picked on 100% of possessions, and that's massive too.
I mean, and once again, like every one of his teams are, they were much better on defense when he was on the court. And OKC was scoring like 119 points per possession without him, well, per 100 possessions when he was off the court. And I think that makes Naz Reid even more indisposable, right? Is the way that you have to kind of monitor Gobert depending on the matchup. You need that shooting five option off the bench, and it feels like he's indisposable for them. I think if I were them, I'd mostly run it back, bring Randall back on a reasonable contract, see if you can run it back with him.
I think
Or,
that's probably the best spot that you want to upgrade though. He
hey, if
looked
you
great.
if
He looked great in the first two rounds, but when it really got tough,
yeah,
the Randall we all know and hate showed up,
I
and it
know.
makes you wonder like he has playoff experience. He's been kind of the guy, so to say, for a Knicks team for most of his career. And even Knicks fans hated him to the extent that like you knew what you were getting. And while it looked great in the first two rounds, you get into real competition finally. Again, it's an all-time team, an all-time
Right.
defense, but at the same time, his decisions were putrid against OKC.
He almost made me a believer. He almost made me turn into a Randall believer instead of Randall hater. But against OKC, the amount of times he just turned his back to the defender and got pickpocketed for a turnover, atrocious. And he kept getting benched down the stretch because he couldn't hit a shot and he kept turning the ball over. So, I mean, hey, could you be a KD team? Could the Timberwolves be in that
You
business?
know how much Ant would love that?
I know.
his boy.
He
It's
loves
his favorite
KD.
player of all time.
Right. Team USA together. They
Sign
got the
and trade
chemistry. But what?
Randall
I
and
mean,
Naw.
does that really get it done for the Suns?
I
Maybe.
think the Suns want a big man on Ford, like a true center. I've heard they've been trying to find something there. I don't really know what
They're
true centers are really available on the market anyways, but
DeAndre
I don't know.
Ayton.
I don't think I mean Naw and Randall's not terrible.
I saw a report today that Matt Ishbia is saying he kind of screwed up the first 2 years, and he's going to become more involved in the day to day. So I think that really is going to improve things for the Suns.
That's what they need for sure.
Yeah, but I think you try to make what moves you can. You just got to be in the mix with Ant, right? I mean, it looks like the Thunder are unbeatable, but they haven't even won their first championship yet. They're gonna have to pay
Right.
everyone. Maybe some injuries happen. You have one of the best players in the league. Just keep being in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue this is the best stretch in franchise history, right? They've never made back-to-back Western Conference Finals before. So
Right.
I think they're obviously doing something right, and they don't need to make sweeping changes unless there is some sort of opportunity like a Kevin Durant that you can't pass up. But otherwise, I think stay the course. Yeah.
Let's talk about the final, shall we?
All right.
So the Thunder, 68 wins this year.
Is that good?
Most historically good team by any metric you look at. Could be up there with great company if they finish off the Pacers in, 4 or 5 games. As far as their total playoff losses, we're looking at some of the greatest teams of all time. And people have doubted them all year because how young they are and they haven't done it before.
Have they?
No, on this podcast, no. But a lot of, I think, ex players, a lot of players in the league kind of seem to doubt them because they haven't done it before and they hadn't seen them show that championship medal. You wouldn't hear that on this podcast, though.
We're too smart for that. Players don't know shit.
Especially the
And
ones that are
they're,
on TV.
yeah, and they're doing it on the backs of an all-time elite defense, the backs of the MVP Shea and Jalen and Chet. This playoff run have really shown that they can be championship level 2 and 3 players, I think, for this team. It's been a great run. It seems like they're set up for years to come. Kyle, they haven't even won their first championship yet, and I think a lot of people are looking around the league and thinking, how is anyone even going to get on this level?
I've been wondering like how they're not being talked about in the same vein as Boston has been talked about for the last however many years. Like they're financially in such a much better spot than Boston could fathom right now. And like we also forget they have another um another lottery pick that's kind of just been sitting on the bench and learning and watching all year that's going to be introduced to the team next year no matter if they retain everybody or obviously they're going to lose some of the fringe guys most likely, but like it, and then what, two more lottery picks this year, I think. Like
Yeah, I mean, I think most smart people would have said even 2 years ago that like they were in a better position long term than the Celtics, right? Celtics, it was always like we have this window the next couple of years, and then it's gonna get dicey with the money. I mean, I
even just forget the money. I don't think that they're talked about even in terms of like potential dynasty, like Boston has been obviously for the last however many years, where Boston again also only has one championship and could potentially then be tied with OKC in that same time frame for one championship.
yeah, I mean, I guess it depends who you listen to, and I think it's just like
It's just
their
the timing. They haven't made the
timelines are
Eastern
slightly
Conference, or
delayed, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like Boston made its first finals of this era in 2022, and now it's 3 years later. OKC is making their first finals, so I just think it's kind of a few years later on.
They're
But
100% going to
I
be
Yeah, but
don't.
talked about as a
everybody,
dynasty.
yeah, but the talk, the way people talk about the Celtics has been going on since 2022 and before even, I feel like.
Yeah, but the
All right.
No one's
Celtics made
talked
the
about.
Eastern Conference Finals when Tatum was like in his second year.
It's the
The
Eastern Conference. We shit on them all the time.
well, I think it's
I
just
feel
because the
like,
Thunder haven't made it past the second round yet, so people wanted to see it first.
yeah, and now everyone is talking about the Thunder rightfully. Like, I can't think of any team, maybe ironically, the 2012 Thunder, but not to this extent. Like, any
Just set up.
team in the finals set up for long-term success like this team with the number of picks they have, with how young they are, right? Eventually, it'll start to get really expensive, but they've got a few years before that really kicks in. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible. And I mean, you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself because, as we've said, they haven't won yet, and you never know what could happen, right? We never cheer for injuries, but like
I was gonna say, don't even put it
injury
into the
could
easiest.
derail them. Who knows? Um, but as far as doing everything within your power, like they've set themselves up better than I think anyone in history.
Yeah, 100%.
I just wanted to hear it
And
from his mouth.
and on the other side, we have the Pacers. Surprise. The Indiana Pacers are here. They've been doubted all playoffs,
That's not true.
except by Kyle.
It's funny.
You
I'm
didn't
like,
you didn't pick them against the Knicks though.
are you gonna let me finish my thoughts?
No.
I was going into the playoffs the highest of any of us on the Pacers. I was
That
like,
is true.
and I, talked about the series last year and how they're improved. The only reason I did not pick the Pacers against the Knicks, I followed the heart. I texted Nick that too. I said, went with the heart, not the head. And that's the only reason.
Never follow the heart. That's why Seth picked the Timberwolves against OKC.
Mhm.
Yeah. I may have gone like 80% plus on picks if I went with the heart the whole way through.
That's why you got to follow the heart at all times.
I meant the head. I said the heart, didn't I? I'm where I'm at because I went with the heart.
I
He's an
mean,
emotional man.
I feel like both things could be true where, like, even going into the Cavs series, there were a lot of people on podcasts talking, okay, Cavs number one seed, they looked good in the first round, but don't count the Pacers out yet. Like, this team could be frisky.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then once they dispatched them, and again, it was like, wow, they pulled off an incredible comeback again. Now they're heading into the Knicks series, and I think a lot of people outside of the whole New York sports tornado, right? A lot of people were picking the Pacers. So it's not like they were this Cinderella team that nobody realized they were good, but it's just most people thought there were a few teams who were a tier above them in the East.
It's
yeah.
funny because they
I
they
think
have
it's
this
still true too.
they also have this wake behind them of this existential crises, right? They beat the Knicks, and the Knicks are like, all right, we got to fire our coach. The fucking Pacers beat us. They beat the Cleveland. They're like, all right, should we trade Jared Allen? I don't know. What do we do? They beat the Bucks. I
This
mean, the
happens
Bucks
every
was,
year though for a top four seed that loses. It doesn't matter who they lose against.
right.
They're,
It's a very results-based business.
yeah.
But man, I've kind of fallen in love with this Pacers team over the course of the playoffs. I've never been a big Pacers guy or a big Hallie guy or Pascal Siakam's never been my cup of tea. But the way they play, just leaking out every time for a fast break, no matter make or miss. Pascal Siakam running like his life depends on it. Halliburton getting everyone involved. This kind of is every basketball player should love this team, right? It's like the way we should love to see basketball played. Equal opportunity offense, right? No one's too ball dominant. No one's really foul baiting. Not a lot of isolations. Everyone gets their shots up. Scrappy on defense. trying to start a fast break every time. I kind of like these guys.
Very likable. Kyle doesn't like him though.
I don't even know what that means.
He
Why
only
don't I
doesn't
like
like them
them?
when they're playing his Knicks or his Thunder.
I just
I mean, the thing is like we all talk about like, how did you not if you thought they could? But at the same time, that game one was
Yeah.
literally the stars one like aligned in a way that nobody thought was absolutely possible for them to even barely win that game.
The thing
The
is, I
amount
was
of
gonna say,
things that
yeah,
the Knicks didn't do, the amount of, shooting 50% from the free throw line in the final minute of the game where any one of OG or Cat goes 2 for 2 instead of 1 for 2 from the line. That's not, it's not into overtime. It's
yeah,
not a Pacers win. What happens to the series then? The missed, the blatant miss of a
goaltend.
goaltend with 2 minutes left in overtime, which would put the Knicks up six and giving them essentially all the momentum back. It's just like literally everything that needed to happen for the Pacers to win happened. That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I thought about this like if that Halliburton shot doesn't miraculously bounce in, like do the Knicks win the series and Tibbs is a hero instead of being fired? I mean, it's certainly more possible. Like at that, I feel like that game one was everything for that series, and that Halliburton shot bounced higher than any other shot I've seen go in, and now the Knicks are out and Thibodeau's fired. It's a real sliding doors moment.
yeah, I mean it's the whole series is different based on the game one. That doesn't guarantee it would have gone the other way, right? It's just everything
No,
after that would have been different, so you never
yeah,
know. I was more referring to there was some time where like Kyle was talking about how sloppy the fast-paced play was in one of the game five or six, I think. And I feel like as someone who often likes high isolation, uh, what do they call that? Eurocentric, not
what
Eurocentric.
is this guy talking about right now?
I have no
You know,
reason.
Kyle often likes the Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, James Harden type offenses, which is
Uh-huh.
not what Indiana plays. That's all I'm
I
saying.
think I think the sparkling water is going to his head.
It was, yeah, I think so too. It was hectic and extremely frantic though on both sides of the ball that game.
Yeah, I think that's fun. But
I think that's kind of how this series will be. I mean, the Thunder like to live in the chaos, and that's what the Pacers create. Like, there's gonna be
and
a
the
lot of turnovers
opposite as
both
well.
ways.
I don't think there's a
The
lot of
Thunder
turnovers
create
both
chaos,
ways.
and the Pacers love to live in chaos too.
I mean, the Thunder try to create all these turnovers, right? And the Pacers are like a whirling dervish on offense. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, they don't usually
I
turn the ball over.
I also think that though we're like extremely overrating the fact that they did that against the Knicks, which is the freshest in our memory, which is nothing like what they're going to see
Yeah,
starting tomorrow. I mean, the thing that like made no sense for the majority of the series, almost all of it, was like everybody else in the world knows what the Pacers are doing. Whether you make a shot or miss a shot, but especially when you make it, they're getting the ball in as fast as they possibly can to essentially create a fast break. It's what I talked about, I think, on the last podcast going into this, is like that's what they've been doing.
yeah.
Tibbs refused to put any kind of pressure in on the inbounds or as they were coming up the court. It truly was just a fast break, whether it was a make or a miss. Either way, the Thunder, on the other hand, I think in every series so far, has had Lou Dort hounding the ball handler up the entire court. Like it, they're not going to be able to get those easy kind of fast break defenses sleeping. Oh, Pascal's wide open underneath the rim for an easy layup against this team.
No,
The stars are going to have to align, I feel like, for 7 games for them to even have a chance.
Yeah, I mean,
It's famous last words, dude.
the Thunder are minus 750 favorites. No one's ever lost as that big of a favorite except for the Lakers against the Pistons in '04 when Shaq hated Kobe and the team was falling apart with the washed up Karl Malone and Gary Payton. So certainly no one really expects the Pacers to win the series, and I certainly don't. Um, I think, a Thunder sweep is more likely than honestly, I think a Thunder sweep is more likely than a game 6 or 7 being played in this series, frankly. But certainly the Pacers have been counted out before. Are there any advantages the Pacers can find here in this series? I was thinking maybe the fact that the Thunder like to kind of help a lot and leave open shooters for role players, and the Pacers are a very good 3-point shooting team. Seems like maybe that could win them a game, but obviously not the series. Um, I don't know. I'm picking OKC in 5. You guys might call me a chalk donkey because that's probably the most common pick, but I think it's either a sweep or 5. I just I don't really see the Pacers making this a long series, unfortunately, even though I'd like that to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, they advantages, I don't think they really have any. Their chance is can they avoid turning it over, right? As Kyle said, totally different question playing the
Yeah.
Thunder than playing the Knicks. And can they shoot really well from three? OKC gives up a lot of threes, gives up a lot of corner threes. And if they get hot from the outside and OKC has a cold day or two, you know, that's their only hope, I feel like. So, for the purposes of our pool, I'm taking OKC in 6 just to hope that most people won't pick that and maybe Indiana will have some miraculous games again and force it to 6. But I agree with Sam. I think 5 is the most likely and probably sweep is second most likely. So,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Feels like it's gonna be a coronation, kind of, for the Thunder as one of the all-time great teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's much more to say. I'm excited to see it. I feel like there was something about the way Chet played this playoffs and especially like last series. Kind of felt like he just randomly, maybe not randomly, but all of a sudden kind of came into his own, especially on the defensive end against Minnesota for some reason. And
Yeah.
I was like thinking like I know we basically have Victor penciled in as defensive player of the year as long as he's healthy for the next at least 5 years, but after watching Chet this postseason,
Mm.
I think it's really like a grinded out 1-2 them defensive player of the year battle for the next
hmm.
that next 5 year span. I don't know who's touching either of those guys.
Which is interesting
Well,
because he didn't even make all defense,
I mean, he also didn't
he,
make he didn't have enough games
but
played, so
time games played,
yeah, if
yeah.
either of them can stay healthy. Maybe they'll just switch off
Right.
years when one of them plays the most games. But I hope it's a long series for the sake of watching it because I think it'll be a fun series to watch, and I like watching both these teams play on both ends of the court. So I'm hoping it goes 6 or 7, but that's not what my prediction is. Although for our playoff pool, I did pick Pacers in 7 because that's my only chance of if I pick Thunder in any capacity, my best chance is to tie for third 3 ways. So I went Pacers.
why in 7?
Why Pacers in 7?
Yeah, I was just gonna pull up the standings. I know it doesn't matter for our
Couldn't
listeners,
really
but
tell you, to
like,
be honest.
is 7 really the optimal number for you?
I mean, Pacers are really good on the road. I don't know that it's would necessarily have to be winning at home.
I just felt like I'd always be in it.
But I mean, assuming that the top three team or the yeah, like best case if Indiana wins, even is you finish in third or tied for second, so split second and third. And then I guess, yeah, it doesn't matter. You might as well pick them in 7 at that point because no one else behind you. I was just gonna say, if you were close in standings to someone else behind you, they're probably thinking the same thing. I would have changed up
Right.
the games, but it doesn't
But
matter
I'm
what
like,
how
I'm
the
like,
standings are.
yeah. Either way, my real pick is OKC in 5, and the playoff pool is dead to me because I'm not going to win it.
Yeah, I'm debating 4 or 5 for the pool.
What's your real pick if you didn't have a pool to win?
It's probably OKC in 5. Again, I just kind of feel like we've even seen it in recent years, even like last year, right? Where it looks like a team is so dominant that they should sweep, but you kind of get that last home game from the underdog team to force a game 5 where they probably shouldn't in the first place, like we saw last year with Dallas and Boston.
Or like
So
Nuggets Heat
gonna,
kind of reminds
yeah,
me of
yeah,
that too.
exactly. So it's like logically that's probably the right thing, but at the same time, I don't know why they wouldn't just win in 4
Right.
the way their team is.
I looked up tickets, by the way. I was like, maybe I'll try to go to Indianapolis for one of these games.
No way, dude. Even Knicks tickets were outrageous. I looked.
Cheapest tickets are like $1,200
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
Indianapolis.
I wonder if they're more expensive than OKC.
Let's just fly to Oklahoma.
Someone said on Twitter, theoretically, you could attend if you live in the Midwest every game because it's only a 12-hour drive. And someone's
Is it
like,
really?
what's up with Midwestern people thinking that like 12 hours is just a short random drive?
We'll drive
So
anywhere.
true. Any kind of surrounding state, it's like it's not bad. It's only a
From
couple hours,
Indianapolis,
but
8 hours, fine.
10 to 12.
Yeah. All right, I'll drive us there in my new car, Kyle. We'll go down to Oklahoma City.
Thank God we could roll the windows down.
Feel the breeze for once in our lives. All right, well, I'm excited. I'm like you said, Seth, it's a bittersweet moment. I'm already kind of mourning the end of the NBA season. Then we'll have this lull before football.
We got the WNBA. He just talked about it.
Are
My
we gonna
girl
take
Kiki's been going off.
are we gonna take a break in the summer like we always do? Or we're just gonna cover the
Yeah.
WNBA now?
Well, we could do that, but I think we should just take a break. I don't think anybody that listens to this now, any of the 3, would care at all about the WNBA.
I mean, Matt
Yeah,
wouldn't care any less than he already does
That's
about the other
fair
sports.
too.
So
that's facts. That's big facts. We'll probably have one more episode where we go over the finals result, and then we'll take a break until we start to preview football in August.
we could cover WNBA playoffs maybe.
Yeah.
True.
Stay tuned. We'll be here. All right, well, it's finals time, Kyle. I want you to send our listeners off into the finals with something to think about, something to worm their way into their eardrums over the next few days.
The reckoning is here. The introduction to the world. The Thunder. We've made it. We're about to do the damn thing. What we couldn't do, what they couldn't do. I wasn't a huge Thunder fan back in the olden days, but it's time. It's time that the prophecy is unleashed. Okay, see.
This man used to be a Nuggets fan.
I'm a fan of teams. Or I'm a fan of teams. Jesus Christ, dude. I'm a fan of players. We all know that.
Get us off the air.